Welcome to another episode of the Skidoo Lounge. With me today is an old buddy of mine. It's been about a year or so now, I feel like anyway, since the original Devil link up. He was originally, excuse me, he was originally a 508 member, no longer with the Devils. He's currently running, I believe, his own Discord group, the 69th Shellers or some shit like that. I don't know. We'll touch base on that and some other shit. So, by further ado, what's up, Rez?
Hey man, how's it going today?
It's going good. It's going good. It's going good. Finally get you in here. I'm happy to finally get to talk to you.
I appreciate you allowing me some time with you today. I appreciate that very
Of
much.
course.
Been looking forward
So
to
I
it.
guess we'll just go ahead and start with, if you don't mind, like your age, where you're from, what you do.
All right. 53 currently, Gen Xer, early portion of that side of the house. I work for the federal government, so I don't know if we want to really dig into that topic as hot as it is recently here. So,
Fair enough.
yeah, we can keep that part moving. So, what else?
Where are you from? Like Northeast, Southwest, fucking Midwest, Northeast, Northwest.
Um, I grew up in the great state of Arkansas, Razorback fan through and through, go Hogs, baby. So uh back in the day when they were part of the Southwest Conference, now they're a big SEC team, you know. Proud to rep them occasionally on some calls with some headgear, jerseys and things. So now
So
I'm hey, I'm
what
sorry,
got
now
you into gaming, living out in Arkansas?
oh man, that goes all the way back to like childhood, man. I grew up like so I don't know if you're familiar with this, but we had like the Texas Instruments. I don't know if you're familiar with those back in the day, man. Original system, like you'd actually like record on like tapes, cassette tapes and things. I don't know if you're familiar with those. You may have to pull up a picture,
Yo,
as young as
I
you are.
went to a thrift store last week and ran into A-Tracks, and that was the first time I'd ever seen an A-Track in my life.
Oh my word, yeah, dude. So yeah, 8 tracks. A little bit before my time, but I was familiar with them. I started out in the cassette generation. First things growing up there. But yeah, 8 tracks were kind of a thing. Not not like, oh, let's go get the latest music on an 8 track. And I was like, no, let's go get the latest music on a cassette, before we rolled into CDs and the 50 times iterations of music that we've changed over our generation, or at least my generation. Um
Right.
yeah, so we would, like, record my dad would, like, record things that he did, like, on this Texas Instruments, computer onto this, like, cassette tape and things and, like, in the cassette player. I think they all looked the same at that time back in the, early '70s, so, and then, you know, that was, like, real young, I could barely see over the desk, like, head high on top of a desk and, desk only a few feet tall, about 3, 4 feet tall there, so but, yeah, so my first, like, gaming system was, like, the Atari, truly. I think we used to play a game back then on there, but I don't remember much. I think we played Pong on that, but then we started back into Atari and truly got into the Pong, aspect of it, and just kinda grew into gaming from there with each, you know, computer
Right.
and modules, etcetera, consoles, and just kind of grew
Mm.
game by game and learned, enjoying the system, my Xbox systems now, and sometimes some Steam play on some laptop. So yeah, man.
So you got to essentially see, like, I mean, not maybe not the very, very first thing, but you've essentially got to see the evolution of gaming.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely, man. Saw it from the takes of it. The like I said, the Atari with the single joystick and the orange button, or the
Playing
paddles with
Tetris, or
the
what is it? Tetris? Pong? Pong?
yeah. Well, yeah, Pong. I used to love to play Atari Pitfall. My Gen Xer fellows know about the Atari. Then you then you got into these fancy joysticks you used to have with like the used to actually like fit your hand with like the trigger on top. I think it was the button on top versus that
Damn.
holding that stick with the button on the side. Yeah, man. And then those would break occasionally. Pop some plastic holding them so hard, kind of like you do with your stick drift. On the new new Xbox or
Man, I've
PlayStation.
sent so many controllers back to Microsoft, like, bro, I want a fucking gift card.
I feel your pain, man. Yeah, I have a collection going on. I plan to take back to which call over there and get me some little dough back to put towards another one. You know, I think they only get what $1 back on them or something. Um,
Man, it's bullshit though, because they came out and even said that they literally produce these Xbox controllers. I don't know about every company, but I remember there was this huge thing that went out in Gamers Magazine that was talking about admission of uh basically these sticks they're weak. So like, if you fucking play a game that requires you to use the analogs heavy, you're fucked in like a year, tops.
He'll let loose, baby.
Yeah, and everything requires the sticks these days. Like, who doesn't play with the fucking sticks?
He'll let loose. Run, bitch, run. That's why I don't play. That's why I don't play. Infantry. I play that
Well, and
automatic.
so
So you don't have to beat it
the
so hard.
biggest reason I was just touching on what your age and stuff was it was simply because of the variety, like the variety, I guess. You have so many age groups, specifically with Hell Let Loose, man, that it's something that should be spotlighted. I feel like, you know what I mean. Like, fuck, at one point we had that tiny guy. I touched base on this in this last episode I did with Lazarus. Tiny was a fucking Vietnam tanker, dude, like, you know what I mean? So, it's
Yeah.
insane that those type of cats are all in a group together. He's still with the Devils, by the way.
Oh, nice. Yep. That's awesome, dude. Yeah.
I haven't seen him or talked to him yet, but
He's out there. I'm sure he'll float back in at some point. It'll be some
I just hope
gaming
the
and
cat's
stuff. But
alive, bro. He was he was 70s or some shit when I talked to him last. That was years ago.
yeah, man. Yeah. So like I was like drifted between you know uh PlayStation and Xbox consoles. I played like the first PlayStation, so PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, and then I flipped over and kind of stayed in like the computer lane for a little while and played on some computer games because I felt like that was the better graphics and interfaces
Oh yeah, for sure.
at that time. And then I jumped back to Xbox, when Xbox one first came out in that platform. I think I got it about 6 months after it was into it, release and things. I wanted to make sure they at least got some of the bugs out with like the cooling fan system and things like that going on. So about 6 months in, maybe 8 months, I felt it was a good time to just jump into the whole Xbox lane, and went that route. So, Xbox, here I am. I still occasionally game on a laptop with some of the games, but kind of thinking about getting back into the PlayStation. Because I miss my Gran Turismo games from
Fucking
back in
traitor,
the
bro.
day. Man, I
No,
can't
I'm
play
just
that
kidding.
card game, dude. I've got that card game on Xbox. I cannot play that card game, dude. Just Gran Turismo is where I started from, from the PlayStation, and
Right, right. And there's a lot of older gentlemen that would say the same. Like, I mean, I remember my dad used to play that shit all the time when I was growing up on PlayStation, like the original PlayStation.
mhm. Yeah, it's just, once you had a game and you like that game, it's like with any system, you kind of follow. Like I said, I got away from it, played, computer games for a while, and then jumped into Xbox. So it's like, and I've seen the Gran Turismo and kind of watched the iterations, and I kind of miss playing that. I don't know if I'd play the new one necessarily. I may jump into back some of the classic reverse compatible type
Right.
of Gran Turismo versions, from the startup times. Yeah.
So what game can you throughout your life what's the first game that made the biggest impression on you?
Oh man. Um, there've been so many of them. Um, I don't know. Kind of like there was a game back in the day on I think it was Atari that was I can't remember what it's called, but it was about tanks. You used to be able to shoot one round of a tank. You used to be able to bounce it off the wall. I can't think of the name of it. Save my life right now. part of being old, I guess. But
I'll have to Google it and add it in the description.
yeah, appreciate that, man. But you still like bounce the round off the wall and shoot the tank. That's kind of what's fascinating with tanks. Really surprised I never got into the whole tanking role when during military time, but don't know why I stayed away from that. But I mean, that would have been a cool route, in my opinion, to go to. But I just never did.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But that's why I play Armored today. Play World of Tanks, play Hell Let Loose. I love everything involved with like a tank aspect. Just love ringing about and fascinated with them.
So, do you wanna talk a little bit about your time in the service? Or, like, what you did, what era it was, anything like that? We don't have to, I was just curious.
Yeah, we can talk a little bit about that. So background: my dad was military. My family has a military background. My uncle was with the Merchant Marines during World War II, I think it was. My grandfather, my mom's side, my grandfather, actually developed tuberculosis from World War II, I believe it was, and died early 70s, right a little bit after I was born there. But he was connected military wise. And then my dad was military side of the house. He was Korea and Vietnam War. So kind of just, naturally,
Snowballed to you.
yeah, flowed and evolved to me, uh, you know, picking up some aspect of the military. So I was kind of like, decided to join. They hooked me up on like going to college and college money. They found
Mm.
my
Oh, yeah.
weakness along with my family side. Like, this is where you need to go. So I did that. Jumped in there, and it was some good times. Good times, bad times.
Right, but now they're all times missed, that's the shitty part.
Yeah, yeah. I like So I,
I mean,
I
maybe not for you, Mr. Fed, but for the regular civvies that left the service, it's even the shitty times are missed. Mm.
Yeah, if I don't know if you go to a VA hospital, but like if you go to a VA hospital, whether it be um a CBOC or a VAMC, anywhere, even if you're connected or not service wise, there's always veterans in there. Always, if you go eat or something, they're hanging out at the
Right, right.
coffee
Oh, yeah.
shop. There's always veterans there. Always someone to talk to about military service and feel that bonding or that camaraderie, back with people. They may not have been in the same service as you, but there's probably someone there that was on the rotation before you or after you, you
Right.
know, depending on where you are with, your career overall and things. There's always people out there to connect with and share
Yeah, of
that
course.
bond with, just, like Hell Let Loose in the game, in the 508, there's military guys there, um, that you
Yeah,
connect with.
we'll get to the Discord shit for sure, because that's a whole that'll probably take us a good 45 minutes.
Yeah, to get into that lane of it. But anyways, yeah, so I mean, I'm sure there's like VFWs, you know, military service organizations that you can always connect back with, but with veterans. But like I said, you know,
Right.
working in the federal system and, getting my health care, um, through the VA, there's always veterans to talk to, and I'm always surprised, by the stories they tell me, some of the Vietnam guys that I can relate to with like what they say with, what my dad used to tell me, when he would tell me things, war stories and things, very little ones, but a little bit about them, you know.
Right.
But there's always guys willing to talk about, what they did, where they were, whether basically any service branch. Now I don't
Yeah.
know too much about the Space Force. I don't know where they fit into the whole thing, but that's after my time. And I don't know what stories they would have to tell. I'm sure they've got some, but but yeah, there's all the branches of service out there that are at a VA or VA facility, or hanging around that area, that you can always connect with or talk to and share a war story with, that just love talking, especially some of the older uh ones that have become retirement community based, or having mobility issues and things like that that have come up there, with their caregiver, just for an appointment. Talking to those guys are really awesome when you get that opportunity, to share and connect with some of the older veterans, that don't have a lot of people to talk to, but you get that opportunity just to listen to that story that they're
Oh
telling
yeah,
you, which
oh
is
yeah.
always amazing and always like, wow, I'm glad
It
I
would
didn't
always
go
be cool
through
to
that.
volunteer more hours type shit, like, to be able to put free time into shit like that to go talk to those cats, but it's hard to, dealing with your own shit and then work and then all that other stuff, it's hard, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
That's why I like Discord and the group and guys, and, we'll get to that part, but, I
Yeah.
think that's a huge thing that guys overlook or misinterpret, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. I know the VA started like, well, a long time ago, recording like veterans history or war stories or service periods, in recordings and things, which is really awesome, and started archiving those for future references and sharing, with veterans of past some of their stories and things, which I thought was really cool. Um, I don't know if that's still going on or not, but that was like 10 or 15 years ago they started that, which I thought that was a really awesome thing for them to take on.
You're starting to fade out a little bit on me, brother.
Oh, sorry about that. Can you hear me?
You're good.
All right, sorry. Move my mic a little bit. I think I bumped it away a little bit. Sorry about that.
No, you're fine, you're fine. I think it was like you were zoning out or something. I wanted to bring you back.
No, I think I think I knocked my mic away a little bit. So there we
Ah,
go. Yeah, yeah.
perfect. I can you're perfect, yep.
It's on one of those flex things, so it's like maybe falls not
Yeah,
quite,
yeah.
up to the par where it should be. So, anyways, yeah. So, yeah. So that's how I got in. Sorry, drifting there on the story conversation though. But that's how I got into the service. Military background, family,
Yeah.
uh, being there, and then you know connected in, and that just kind of fueled me through 22 years of service and retiring out. So, um,
So
you know,
did you get were you involved around, like, Grenada times or Gulf War times? Like, did what was your like, what were you doing in those times?
um, let's
If
see.
you can tell me. If you can't, you can plead the fifth. We talked about this before you got on. If you don't want to or you can't, that's fun.
Yeah, no, I no. So I wasn't in Grenada. I was kind of after that uh, time. One of my buddies was in Grenada. Um, when or sorry, not Grenada. Sorry, Panama. Oh my word, my bad. On time. Um, I was after that, after Grenada. But around the Panama time,
Yeah.
one of one of my buddies, he used to tell me we would talk. Um, we were in our unit. We went, and he would tell me like, he's like, yeah, I remember all these guys jumping in from the 82nd Airborne. He said I came out in my um, t-shirt, boxers, and house shoes with a coffee cup full of coffee, and just watched the 82nd jump into Panama. I was like, well, that's pretty
That's
cool.
crazy.
He's like, yeah, I just sat there and watched him from my front porch. It's pretty neat. He was,
I'm sure that was quite a show.
yeah, it was. He was, and the funny part about that is, he was a jungle school instructor down jungle warfare school. I think it was down there instructor, and was a actually part of the airborne unit that was already there. So
Oh, so it was just another day in the woods for him.
yeah, just another day in the woods watching them jump in. I was like, that would be
That's
so crazy.
hilarious.
Yeah, to be in a country and watch, some of your buddies jumping in like, hey guys, type of thing.
Right,
So
where you been, bro? Welcome to the fucking show.
yeah, exactly. Glad y'all can make it. Whatever we're doing here. Anyways,
And
yeah.
so, what made you not made you, because I already know what made you, what at what point during your initial enlistment were you like, "Yeah, this is what I'm gonna do. This is what this is. I'm gonna retire from this."
Um. So I was in the motor pool, um, and talking to one of the sergeants out there, and I was like, um, a mid level NCO at the time. I was talking to one of the senior NCOs, and he's like, he's like, "So what are you gonna do?" I was like, I'm at, at 10 years, basically where I was at. And you get that, um, um, mandatory and statutory obligation of 8 years. I did
Right.
that. I did, like, 2 more after that, put me at 10. He's like, "What are you gonna do?" And I'm like, "I not sure." He's like, "Well, you're at that point, like, you either need to commit to 20 or you need to pack it and be gone and just call it, what you've got where you are and, go from there." So, I took some time out there and thought about that and, just decided, yeah, I'm gonna go for the other 10 side of it and, wrap it up and let's call a retire go forth and make a retirement out of it. So, you know, you just keep going and you keep going until you're to that
Right, just
point.
keep going through the motions.
Yeah, and you look up and you're like, "Oh, man, where has it gone to?" So, once you get to that 10 point, that's 10 years, that's that point where you're like, "Do you keep going or not going for me?" And it was like, "Okay, just do the other 10 and close that part of the chapter of history out in your life, and wrap it up." So,
That's
that's kind
crazy
of
to
how.
think about though, like, you know what I mean? How old were you when you made that decision? When was your 10-year mark?
Um, my 10-year mark was at 28 years old, so
Damn, so at 28 years old, you decided the rest of your life. That's insane.
yeah, basically made a career choice then, like, okay, I'm just gonna give it another 10 and be done, which is a good thing. I
Yeah, oh, I'm not hating on it at all. It's just to see that in perspective and to think about that is just it's insane.
Yeah, absolutely. But every day we control our lives and make those decisions. We may not know where they lead us into the future, wise, but we make those life choices, decisions almost every day that we're living, whether we know it or not, you know.
Right, you're right. You're right. So do you believe in worm theory or the wormhole theory by chance? Or something like that? I think that's what it's called. I could be wrong. But it's like every decision you make, one path goes one way and the other path goes the other way. And then like that's what deja vu is like the one path has crossed your fucking your
You,
fucking thing already.
that's an interesting theory. I think there are I think there's possibility, everything we do in life is a choice that we make, to go through a
Yeah,
door or not, and potentially leave the door open or closed behind us, with what we do in our life. And, um, you know, I think it's all about making the right choices and being prepared for the opportunity when it presents itself to you.
fair enough. Fair response. So what's the what rank did you reach?
Um, so I've closed out of service at E7 is where I completed it.
What a stud.
Thanks, man. It's just
I feel like
about being there,
keep
showing
going, you're
up,
good.
doing the right thing, man.
Yeah, hey, that yep, bare minimum.
You know? No, yeah, just, standing up and going through those doors, when the opportunity presents to be a leader, you're like,
Yeah, yeah.
"Yeah, I wanna do that," and taking on that challenge, like, "Yeah, I want to, be in the front of this and lead people,"
Right,
and,
of course.
you know, bringing people up and helping them along the way, you know, leaders truly do lead from the front. That's just not a saying, that is the reality of it. And a lot of people confuse managers and leaders in many of the professions. Managers are, basically the people that manage them. They don't lead them in a direction.
Right. I
Managers
mean,
are
you could
kind of
have a
the
manager
status
that it's a
quo.
leader,
Yeah,
but
yeah. So, I just decided to be a leader and lead from the front, lead by example, and you know bring people along with me, and teach, train, and inspire them to be better in life. And
yeah, you
show them
inspire
show them
me
the
every
way.
day.
Thanks, man.
So, what made you wanna stay federal after you leave the military? Why
Um,
not go, privatized or, independent?
uh, you know, that that that's a very good question. Um,
Plus, this is my job, baby. That's what I do. Good questions, man.
right, right. Um, you know, I m so my dad was on the, federal side too. Um, not not what I do, but on the federal side. So, um, he worked for the, DoD Army side of the house after he split, service. He,
Yeah, yeah.
got a job with DoD working Army and stuff. So, um, I kind of knew what the federal service was about. My mom was also on the federal side. Um, she worked for, the Forest Service. Um,
Oh,
so ki
nice.
Yeah, so kinda had that background of what, you know, civil service was about, you know, aspect of it, helping people, helping the public, helping people, um, you know, through various situations and being better in life. My mom actually, um, worked at a, for the in a blah, blah. My mom actually worked at a Job Corps. I don't know if you're familiar with Job Corps?
Yeah, I know what Job Corps are.
Okay. Yeah, she actually worked at a Job Corps. Um, so, it was about helping, you know, those people younger in life get through programs and struggles, that came from almost all walks of life, that needed the next level of trade, the next skill, to help themselves out in life, so
Yeah, they've done really well in Cincinnati and the Ohio area.
yeah. Um, so it provided people with, the job skills and they trade to make themselves better. But it's about those people taking that first step when they're young, to move their life forward. And maybe they had some things that happened in the past that closed some opportunities to them, but this was still an opportunity for them to better themselves that they took. So I got to kind of see that firsthand and grow up with that when I was younger and kind of understood, okay, yeah, federal service is about really just helping people. It's about helping regardless of who it is, it's about helping people. And that's what, our government, my understanding of the government is there to do is to help people. Regardless of where they are status wise, um,
Right. Well,
and
when you leave all of your governmental jobs, I wanna have you back on here to ask you more specific questions about that Fed shit, but we'll pass on for that.
yes, please.
So basically, you've been instilled from a young age to be a civil servant,
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Like I
a
grew up with
real silver servant. Like, it doesn't seem like you're like, a shitty one, you know what I mean? Like, you're not one that's, like, getting paid for nothing.
uh, I wish I would get paid for nothing, but I don't.
Right, right, right. Hey, I'm not insinuating or instigating nothing, I'm just saying, like, you know, they are
Yeah.
some, like, fuck, bu these goddamn construction workers out here by my place, bro. They be working on the road for 10, 15 fucking years type shit. That shit still ain't fucking done yet. It's like, come on.
All
But I
right.
won't get too political with it. I apologize. Just
No,
aggravates me.
no, don't get too political with it. But that's kind of how I got into the federal service lane is through serving Americans. And that's kind of led me into that lane, and that's what I've been doing career
So, hey,
wise.
I got a
Is
question real quick.
Go
What's your
ahead.
definition of an American?
A definition of American?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I did this thing the other day where I started because I was watching this and it started from a 9/11 documentary and it was just cracking me up because I was watching all of these things and like the news articles and the bulletins back then was like or true Americans are Americans who don't something or whatever the fuck during a time of crisis, don't question the government, a time of crisis and shit like that. Like these are on Fox fucking news bulletins. So, like, it just blows my mind, and I've like, I don't know the answer to that question either, so, like, don't feel bad for not being able to answer. I'm still trying to find that answer, because I feel like if you go too far right and you say, "Oh, well, I'm patriotic this and blah, 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 blah," then you consider this. If you do this, there's just too many labels for shit, so I was just, don't feel instigated to fucking answer it. I was just saying, if you have a definition, that'd be nice.
I do not have a definition of what an American is. Jeez,
It's a good question though, ain't it?
that's a real good question. I don't even know where to start to answer that one because, there's so many aspects. It could be like,
Oh, yeah.
what's an
Oh, yeah.
American, I guess truly an American is anyone that has proclaimed that the United States of America is their country, I guess. I don't
Right, so, like, at a basis, like, just at a base level, what an American is, if you label yourself as an American, you're born here, right?
Well, not necessarily. There's
Or sorry,
naturalization.
you claim
There's
America, this isn't an immigration thing, I'm not trying to get on immigration issues. I'm saying, like, in general.
um if I guess if you claim the United States of America, like I said, I guess if you claim the United States of America to be your country that you want to rep, then you're an American. You're a U.S. citizen. I
Right.
would take that. I mean, you got to have some legal documentation to accompany that, I'm sure. But I mean,
Right, right, right.
um, you know,
I wonder like, I've always been trying to like, the ideology behind it, though. Like, you just seem like a little bit more intelligent than I am, like, that's why I've been trying to get this worked out.
man, that's the closest like I could think of a definition. Like, is if this is your
Fair enough.
country
I'll
that
run it up the ladder.
you're gonna have to, man. Because I think of it as simplistic terms. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, of course.
if you got documentation that you're an American, no matter like how you receive it, as long as it's not fake, you didn't pay for it or something. But I mean, as long as I guess you would pay for it in some instances. But anyways, as long as you rep for America, I would think you are an American. I mean, born here, immigrated here, naturalized, whatever you want to call it. Uh, you know, think you're an American. So, I mean,
Oh, yeah, dude,
if
I served with guys that were serving to get their citizenship. Some of my best boys came from there. Like, I got friends from,
yeah,
I'm not that's what I'm saying. I wasn't getting into a harsh immigration issue or nothing or trying to get a stance. I was just that question comes up a lot, I feel like, and I've just been kind of trying to answer it.
yeah,
But anyway,
yeah,
I digress.
no worries. That's my stance on it. As far as American, and then you have Native Americans. That's a whole nother conversation. The real
Oh, yeah,
Americans,
it definitely is.
the true
I got a,
Americans, I guess.
yeah, I've got a girl, her name's Alexa. I've been trying to get her on. She's really big into, researching and studying the missing people, like, on reservations and stuff like
Yeah,
that. Like, she's
that's
a
awesome.
God dang it, I really hate trying to think of the tribe that she comes from because 'cause I'm gonna say the wrong one. So I'll leave it at that. She's just a native. She comes from native and Italian heritage, which I always thought was a crazy combination.
Wow.
But she's super cool, man. I've known her for many years, and I've been trying to get her on here to talk about that level of stuff because it's still crazy how there's, like, no laws. Like, you get to a certain point there, and it's like, a lot of these missing peoples are people going onto the reservation and kidnapping these fucking people. You know what I mean? It's not like tribal fucking, tribe on tribe shit. It's
Yeah.
outside people. But the FBI and they all can't get involved because it's native lands, and the natives
Yeah.
don't have enough fucking funding to do anything about it, so it's just crazy to me.
Yeah. They are their own, tribe of nations,
Yeah, and
their
it's what they
own
wanted,
world,
I
their
get
own.
that, but it's still sad.
Yeah. It is. That'd be a good one to watch if you can get her on here. Would love
Yeah,
to see that.
if bro, fingers crossed, man. I plan on getting on here as soon as I can. So, as a what's your how do you what led you to basically wanna start your own Discord group? Like, I mean, like I said, we met in the 508, and, you rose up pretty quick there, and then we had the split. Everyone who's listening to this from the Discords know what I'm talking about. No need to go into detail on that. Um, and then after the Suns, you split again. So, what ended up kinda transpiring to kinda you were like, "Fuck it, let me do my own shit and do it right your way."
Um, you know, it some things transpired, to in the background, and it was just you know, time time to reflect on it, and it was just after reflection, it was time to go, you know. Um, Thought I was gonna stay at the previous location, but, just didn't. It just after reflecting of conversations and, back through some of the conversations, through some of the chat sessions and some of the voice conversations, reflecting wise and bouncing that off of a couple of other people, I was like, it's just time for me to leave.
Right.
I think I had, you know, not completed everything I ever wanted to do there, but, got to that point where, um, it just wasn't destined for me to be there anymore. You
There
know
was no growth over there, let's be honest, Red, stop being a fucking hoe, there was just nothing happening. Nobody was making effort.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, you could say that. I mean, I don't have any ill feelings towards them,
Hell
and
no, I love those
I
guys still.
I wish the best for them, there's still people over there, that I, gamed with, and grew some relationships and some roots with over there. But in the end, it's like time to part ways, and that's what it was. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna, leave here. And then, lots of not lots, but several people came along, with me over there into this new uh clan that we created, the 69th, um the Shelling 69th is who we are, and we took our designation from a 69th armored. Um, and we play basically armor only, in Hell Let Loose, which is a unique niche amongst the whole game concept of it. So,
And so what led you to like, I know you were talking about this earlier in the episode where you were like, "That's why I do armor and Hell Let Loose, Battle of Tanks or Tank Battles." Uh, why is that such an emphasis for you? Like, why do you prefer to play that? And my second question to that, is also, why do you think it's so hard for the infantry and the armor in game to be cohesive compared to, like, real life? It's like a two-step.
um, so from the aspect, I play armor because I can't shoot a weapon, accurately in the game. So 10-meter radius with the HE shell, kills lots of infantry versus my clip that I can't kill one with. So
Oh, you need the armor is what you mean, huh? You need the shield.
yeah, no, I'm joking, but yeah, it's I don't. I, I started off playing World of Tanks on Xbox when I first got it. I still play that game, not as regularly anymore, but I mean, I played World of Tanks like basically first year it came out, maybe second year I was in
Now,
it.
what is that about? Is it, like, World War II tanks, modern day tanks? Like, I don't know anything about that shit.
Oh, okay. So, um, it originally started out as like World War II tanks back in the day. Um,
And
World
what's
War
your favorite
One
tank to
tanks.
use?
It actually started with World War One tanks, or the start of World War One tanks, and then it rolled all the way up to through World War Two tanks, and then they created a conventional warfare side of it, I guess, where it gets into more modern tanks and took off after the World War Two platforms up to, the M1A1. I think is in that game at the top level
Oh,
of
nice.
tanks to achieve. Yeah, so you have the factions within that. They've kind of changed it a little bit. The World War II, they had the countries, and then uh, in the second portion of it, or the modern era, they have the actual factions of it, and it's a bit different, but it's all about tanks. About shooting tanks. You can play in a first person or third person mode. It's pretty good.
Right.
I enjoy it.
What's your favorite position within the tank?
Within Hell Let Loose, you know, I I don't mind any of them. I'm not big on gunning though. Everybody wants to gun, and I used to kind of want to gun, but as I've developed skills within the game, I would much rather drive or TC. The driving, I think, is almost the least to me is the easier one per se out of the
The
two. Because
driving is?
yeah, out of the two, because
Oh, you're about to get so much hate from people.
though the driving is easier than the TC. Let me clear that up. What I'm saying between the two, between driving and TC. Um, the driving I feel is easier than the TC role, because the TC role truly has to think, 2 and 3 steps ahead directional wise, between the armor and the directions of the armor, and then, the turret and the gun directions of where it needs to go to, and then be able to read and understand the map and map awareness at the same time. So the TC role to me is a little bit more complex playing than to me than what the driver is. But I mean, again, good drivers still drive by map, recognize armor and things and where things are going on. But the TC adds potentially to that. I just feel the TC is a harder role to play. I think the gunning is probably the easiest role and potentially starter role, but I just never got into gunning. I mean, I played it, but just eh, I gave up on it.
Yeah, I tried armor a couple times, and I would get pissed off so quick. I tried TCing, and if you want my honest opinion, that's one of the most stressful fucking things because there's nothing you can do except talk. So, like,
Yep.
if motherfuckers ain't on their shit, you're dead. If you're like, you can you can see a tank fucking 2 miles out, but it don't matter if your boys ain't on their shit. If your driver's not able to do a UE or, move with the turret, it's not even that's why I like the infantry shit because there's just so many more working parts, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah. And I the TC is kind of like playing that squad lead, where you in one aspect, it's about playing that squad lead, and moving your pieces around the board, um, moving your tank around the board, but you have to account for infantry and you have to account for armor aspect of it, and call which shell to load, what you're hunting for. I mean, to me, that TC role is a little bit more complex than the other two roles within the crew roles of the tank. So, and then you asked
Fair
about,
enough.
and then you were talking about the integration between infantry and armor, and that stuff just it comes with practice. You know, um, it takes a lot of practice to have a cohesive armor group and infantry group, and then when to mesh them, depending on what you're doing. If you're attacking,
Faction, I feel like also has a play in it.
yeah, absolutely, it does. There's a lot that comes into play. Excuse me, within Hell Let Loose, as far as what you're doing if you're playing, playing with infantry and trying to be a part of an infantry group, and what you're doing and going forth, reading the map, and then communicating with your infantry uh, teammates there. So it gets pretty complex and takes lots of practice and time, to develop into a cohesive infantry and armor group. So lots of practice and doing just basic drills and basic things to bring into a competitive mode within Hell Let Loose.
And that was the next thing I was gonna say. Do you think that's one of the biggest, I would say, barriers type shit? Like, you could easily tell which, which level a competitive team is just by how their tanks and infantry move?
Yes. Yeah, you can tell pretty much how competitive.
What tier they're in is what I should have said, what tier.
Yeah, what tier, what gameplay, what level you would think they're at within the game. Yeah, absolutely. You can tell how good they are and how well their cohesion is, kind of determines how well they're going to play the game. Although there are moments, within the game where, you don't need armor, won't use armor, um, in a combination aspect of it, they may be more loosely played, playing some active roles in various parts of the map, because that every map is different, every situation is different within that, but when they come together to play, that's where you truly see the game, taking shape of those
I
all the
fucking love it too. That's why I fell in love with the game.
yeah, it's really awesome, when it comes together, when you have someone, you have recon working, doing their thing, you have, um artillery doing their thing, and then you have, tanks and armor, working together. It's truly a thing of beauty to watch when you can have that on maps and in gameplays. And I hope some of the, some of the, the TPL. I think we see lots of TPL videos right now. I think the Winter War League's about to start kicking off too. But hopefully we get some videos out there on YouTube, some more videos, and we can see, some more of those cooperation pieces happening because it's really awesome gameplay when you see that.
Yeah, I like to see it against other competitive teams. I don't really care for like you'll see I don't know if it was WRTB. I cannot it was one of those foreign clan teams. They were fucking just they were doing like those panzer charges and shit against blueberries, and it's like, yeah, bro, it's cool for cinematic effect, bro. But like you play any regular team, they're gonna fucking dice you. You all wind up like down an open field.
Yeah, y- yeah. Some of those things are, cinematic use for you know
Tic Tac or
recruiting.
TikTok shits.
Yeah, for recruiting, for recruiting purposes of other players, that want to come in or be a part of, Hell Let Loose. Yeah, very very good videos and trailers, representing their clan aspect, and that's kind of what those are used for when they post them. You go to lots of, like, I think Hell Let Loose is probably on every social media platform out there, and the clans with their recruiting efforts to find people to play, looking for that diamond in rough to be the next, great competitor, in their team, you know, um, are out there. Like I said, every platform you can find them. Videos everywhere. Within the Discord channels, tons of videos too. Within the lanes of Hell Let Loose. So everybody plays Hell Let Loose. I'm sure has have a video of them doing something on Hell Let Loose on their Xbox or their PlayStation, that they could post. So some really good players dropping some really good videos, or have some really good videos they haven't dropped yet for everyone.
So why does the you guys plan on maintaining an armor only unit and basically just like being fucking mercs essentially, motherfuckers for hire, coming in whenever needed,
You know,
or strictly DMT? No, kids, not the drug.
yeah, not the drug. No, you know, we've we created the 69th after an armored, and we planned on playing just armor because we all came from armor and have an armor background. Um, and that's kind of where we're lined at, or aligned right now. But I mean, we have talked about it before. Like, if we ever wanted to take off, would we take off, and how big would we want to be? And we've kind of had some of those conversations. Um, Amongst me and a couple other guys in there. But, you know, the nice thing about this is, like, at the level we're at, everybody knows everybody. There's no real new folks coming in. We're not tied to Hell Let Loose. I don't know if you've seen, but
I'm still in it. Yeah, I still see your shits.
yeah, we're playing, Call of the Wild, hunting together, fields for, birds or moose or things like that, other games, we're
Oh,
playing,
that's adorable. I didn't see that part, but that's adorable.
playing PUBG, we're playing other games out there together, and just enjoying, some of the gameplay, some of the Xbox games that we have, and not necessarily focusing on just one game, strictly
Right,
like
so you're
Hell
trying to
Let
grow
Loose.
community
Yeah. Yep. You're
or the
exactly
community aspect of it at the moment.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because 'cause we're kind of small, so, I playing together in a community, and, the camaraderie involved with that, and learning each other's play styles regardless of what you're doing, just talking, about different things, different, the day, work, etc., life, family,
Yeah,
etc.,
of course, of
experiences,
course.
that's what we do during a lot of these games, if we're out, duck hunting together, in Call of the Wild or hunting caribou or moose or whatever, uh, pheasants, whatever we're hunting, fun stuff, talking, but just a variety, enjoying the game, the console gaming platform itself, and then occasionally we come together to play Hell Let Loose, in a DMT
Right.
tank only match. So, you know, I don't know which way we're gonna go. I don't know if we're going to you know, keep 69th out there and be DMT only, if we're gonna, you know, be mercs for hire and join up with some infantry, or, do a combination, or if we're going to, you know, fold the 69th up and, join the 508, or,
Hey,
um,
well, don't be getting motherfuckers' hearts big, dog. That
yeah,
would be a dream day. That would be a dream day. Don't be doing that shit.
yeah, I'm just saying I don't know the future, of where where it's truly going to, it's I
But would you what would where were what's your top 3 though? Like, you guys obviously have talked about it a little bit. Where would your top 3 home places be? Top 3 clans that you guys would want to go that you think that you'd make the biggest impact?
Oh, well, there's 2 aspects to that. That's been a discussion, not a hard discussion, but, putting some feelers out there, and where I've kind of talked to and got some loose, conversations with. Um, we've talked to, Pathfinders, um, talked to the Pathfinders group a little bit,
Are they
about.
cool? I've never really talked to them. I mean, I've played against them, but
Yeah, 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 they're pretty awesome guys. Enjoyed, conversing with them. I know several of them, that I've played with in the past, whether I was with, 508 or the previous clan, between them, I play with several of them. And they've got some really good tankers, but they're, a bigger group and really full. So I don't know if we would ever, truly be able to do anything within TPL, my guys. So,
right.
because they're kind of a bigger clan too. They're not small side. Talk to 101A, guys, and
Oh, wow.
and their armor commander. Talk to him.
They're like the biggest fucking clan out there, ain't they? Next to like HLLE and shit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh, Talk to them. Um, Talk to, JWT and NATO aspect of it. Um, and I think they're, smaller size. They would just be like an offshoot, kind of like we are, but would be more tankers. Uh, to game with would be a bigger tanker pool, basically, is what that would be if we wanted to stay just all armor and just didn't want to deal with the 69th aspect of it. Um, let's see. I think that's kind of all that I've really reached out to. I apologize if I'm forgetting
So,
someone.
are there any other strictly armor units, or are you because like I've never really heard of an armor like that. Like this is the first of its kind almost. Like you don't really hear of armor offshoots. Like it's either a complete try. You get like 9 Panzer and then 11 Panzer, and I think there's like a 15th Panzer now or some shit. You had the 508, you had Suns, you had a lot of those guys that also split off and went to like WRTB, Merc, fucking HLLE, etc., etc.
So, I was thinking like, hey, we're gonna the first armored group only out there, but um eh, we're probably one of the first that was created that's armor only. But
Do you know of others?
yeah, so it's you ask that, and it's like, that's hard to say because there are some that are armor only now that were formed off of other pieces, or there's guys that come together to play under an armor flag, from a few different areas. So I know we were kind of, I guess, along the first jump towards it, I would think, because we did some Googling and tried to find other just strictly armored clans out there before, we dove into the 69th aspect of it. And we just couldn't find anything. I don't know if that's just because they don't recruit aspect of wise, or they just don't have anything out there kind of like we do. We're just kind of hanging out together. But like JWT, they're a group of guys that play together that play just armor. But I think they have some other ties to some other clans per se. I don't know. I don't think they're necessarily TPL clans, but I think they come together to play armor under that clan or that flag, you know, um, uh, grouping. And then there's KOC that's kind of new that come together after I think it was who was
Did
it?
you say KOC?
Yeah, KOC.
Interesting. I've heard of KA or KRRC, I think they are.
There's some armor guy. I think it's just an armor clan, honestly. That
Oh, damn.
they were just recently formed to come together. About 20 guys or so that separated out, like we did from the previous clan, and just came together and just started playing armor. Um, there's those guys, and I think that's kind of all the ones I know that are just strictly you know, uh armor aspect of it, so
That's crazy. I never knew that.
yeah. Yep.
I low key, I thought you guys were the first and only. Like, I didn't think anybody else did that shit.
Well, the
But you laugh, but it's like, you know what I mean? Like, how many armor guys, how many tankers, even within big groups, like with the SOAs and the fucking or the Sons of Anarchy. I'm so stupid. The Sons, fucking 508, even 508. Like, there's guys that I see that are tankers. They'll hop in by themselves for a game or two, and then they'll get pissed off because they get fucked over by infantry. So it's like it's just not heard of, you know what I'm saying? You don't really see Cav guys going and doing Cav only things, in my opinion. I don't know, I could be wrong, but
no.
obviously I am because there's 4 or 5 other clans, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I like I said, I think we were kind of at that like cutting front edge of it, because everybody else in there seems to be affiliated with an infantry group other than, the couple that I've mentioned. But it seems like they all either have a infantry clan on the side that they run with, and they come together to do this, or they're just a couple of us that are just straight armor clans or groups, and but like I said, the bulk of them come from they have that infantry armor combination within their clans, so which we don't have. So it's just that unique niche that we like to play. But on the other side, I have heard rumors that there are some infantry only uh clans out there that don't play armor.
Infantry only?
Yeah, I've heard that there's
Oh, they're
infantry.
fucking high.
I've heard there's infantry only clans out there that play just infantry on infantry. There's no armor aspect of it. I don't know if they use artillery. I don't know how you do that.
Oh, you mean like they have, like, competitive infantry only.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, you know, when I'm thinking clans, bro, I think of like like when I came into the 508 type shit where, you know, armor and infantry, everybody met up and you had a few arty guys and blah 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 and you went and played blueberry matches with people. You don't fucking, you know what I mean? How do you have a fucking infantry only clan? That is just insane to me.
Yeah, I don't know. That would be interesting to find an infantry only, and I mean, that's a possibility if there's an infantry
That's
only
got to
out there.
be
It's like it would
boring.
be, you know, I I don't know. I like armor, so I would think it'd be boring. Yes,
I mean, granted, I only play infantry, but I like without armor, what's the fuck? Like, that's the whole reason I fell in love with Hella Loose, bro. Because like I used to play the fuck out of like insurgency and shit like that. But
right?
all the moving pieces, like you have to communicate, and when you have motherfuckers that want to communicate back with you, bro, I'm telling you, that's the shit that people fall in love with.
Yeah, it truly is. Um, and I agree
And I'm
with
like,
you.
when I'm like, on comms, res fucking, AT gun, fucking 2 degree, you know what I mean? Like, and then boom, res blows this fucking AT gun up. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, yeah, it is, but the other side of
Or
that,
machine gun nest. Walk me up, res. I need to sit behind your tank. That shit's fucking awesome.
it is the converse side of that, though, when you're playing armor is when you get nuked by the other side, their infantry, you know, and that's the unfun side of it for the armor, aspect, so, you know
But we've talked about this and we've
yeah,
done diagrams, bro. The biggest reason is because if you're gonna run an armor infantry cohesion, there's gotta be 2 fire teams on the fucking tank.
yep,
One in front, one on its fucking weak side. And nobody ever runs it like that.
nope. Nope, we have gamed that, and, that's not a possibility, so from my understanding, so that's where kind of
Yeah,
in the
because you
lane that I'm in.
personnel wise, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah. Yep, absolutely, so but yeah, we've been down the road, talked about that before, so it is what it is going forward, so, like I said, we are out there, you know, trying to figure out where we're going to next steps, but just kind of enjoying, gaming with each other in various games, along with Hell Let Loose when we play that. Actually, tonight's an off night, for Hell Let Loose. We don't have any DMT mashups or anything like that to go through, which gives me the opportunity to speak with you this evening. So,
yeah, we'll have to get a game together again here soon and do some infantry armor cohesion shit. Um,
absolutely.
I guess my I usually I the last couple of questions I ask people, man, are like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Where do you see yourself in your profession in 5 years and all that other shit? But um,
Woo! That's
that's
a
what I'm
hot
saying.
one.
So I guess I'll just slide to that one, and I guess I'll just ask. I guess I'll ask what type of like legacy do you plan on leaving behind for your guys that you're kind of like mentoring in the Discord or in life?
Um, you know, I think it's all about, you know, being, eyes wide open to the future, and making sure that you are reaching your full potential in life and then just enjoying life, on this journey that we go through. Don't keep your head down where you're into work, focusing solely on that and it becomes a grind, but don't keep your head in the clouds where you lose track of everything going around there, just kind of be present in the moment and learn learn to listen to the quiet or the stillness of the wind blowing. I guess that's the best way to put that.
He's a poet.
Yep. Just pay attention to it and just enjoy each moment that you have. Enjoy the people around you and, just learn to fight the battles that can be fought, and not worry about the things that you can't control within them because those things are outside of your lane and cause you stress. So focus on what you can do.
Fair enough. I like that. And one more time, hopefully I can get you back uh, after your term with your current occupation. That would be nice. If not, it happens. Either way, I enjoyed this episode, and I hope everyone who does also enjoys it. And thank you for taking an hour of your time. It was nice, and I'll definitely see you around, big dog.
No, I appreciate you having me on here. You have a good one. Thank you.
See you, Bubba.
Later.